Police Department has released body camera footage of the attack on two officers by a group of migrants.
Snatches and robberies with phones taken, putting out essentially a hit for...
The video shows a man in a yellow jacket who is believed to be Brito wrestling with the officers.
Governor Hochul discussed New York's migrant crisis with President Biden yesterday in a conversation she called very productive.
And hopefully we'll grab him, we get some headway on this.
First of all, thanks a lot, guys. Listen, we saw what happened.
Since arriving in the city, many asylum seekers are picking up various day jobs in order to make ends meet.
You understand that we're in the middle of a surge right now. Let me start with the numbers. Last week, I think, my notes say 3,800.
Decrease in migrant crossings. All right, let's talk about the wild roller coaster ride happening down at the US-Mexico border. So, picture this. Customs and Border Protection, CBP, just dropped the latest stats. And guess what? There's been a pretty sharp decline in migrant crossings from December to January. Yeah, you heard that right. It seems like all those recent efforts to tighten up security are actually making a dent. Now, part of the credit goes to Texas governor, who's been on a mission, putting up these fancy border barriers. You know, like those big fences you see in movies? Yep, those ones. Well, turns out they're doing their job, helping to slow down the influx of migrants sneaking across the border. It's like playing a game of cat and mouse, and for once, it seems like the cat's got the upper hand. But hold up, don't start cheering just yet. Because here's the kicker. Even with all these barriers and tightened security, migrants are still finding ways to slip through the cracks. It's like they've got a secret playbook or something. Yeah, they're crafty like that. So while we're patting ourselves on the back for the progress we've made, there's still this nagging problem of folks managing to cross the Rio Grande River into the US through other routes. I mean, think about it. The border is like this giant sieve. And no matter how many holes we patch up, there always seems to be a new one popping up somewhere else. It's frustrating to say the least. But hey, it's also a testament to the resilience and determination of these migrants. They're not letting a few barriers and patrols stand in their way. You gotta give them props for that kind of persistence. So where does that leave us? Well, it's a bit of a mixed bag, really. On one hand, it's encouraging to see that our efforts to beef up security are having some impact. It shows that we're not just sitting idly by while the border situation spirals out of control. But on the other hand, it's a reminder that this is a complex issue with no easy solutions. We can't just build walls and call it a day. We need comprehensive strategies that address the root cause of migration, while also upholding our values as a nation that welcomes those seeking a better life. It's a delicate balancing act, and one that requires a lot of careful thought and planning. So while we celebrate the small victories, let's also keep our eyes on the bigger picture. Because ultimately, it's not just about keeping people out. It's about finding humane and effective ways to manage migration and uphold the integrity of our borders. And that's a challenge that's gonna take a lot more than just barriers and patrols to solve.
Police Department has released body camera footage of the attack on two officers by a group of migrants.
Snatches and robberies with phones taken, putting out essentially a hit for...
NYPD officer assaulted in the Bronx yesterday afternoon, hit in the head with a bottle in the Kingsbridge section.
Anti-smuggling operation. Alright, let's dive into the action-packed world of the Texas Department of Public Safety, TPS, and their epic battle against the shady characters known as coyotes. Picture this, a team of badass law enforcement agents teaming up with Border Patrol to take down these human smugglers who are making a living out of sneaking migrants across the border. Now, this isn't your average police operation. This is like something straight out of a blockbuster movie. We're talking high-speed chases, undercover stings, and stakeouts in the dark of night. It's the real deal, folks. And guess what? They're making serious waves. Since they kicked off this anti-smuggling operation, they've managed to nab a whopping 1,800 migrants who were trying to make their way into the country illegally. But that's not all. They've also put the squeeze on 145 coyotes. Those slimy smugglers who think they can profit off of people's desperation. Now you might be wondering, what's the big deal? Well, let me break it down for you. These coyotes aren't just your run-of-the-mill criminals. They're part of fast smuggling networks that span across borders and continents. They're like the puppet masters pulling the strings behind the scenes, and taking them down is no small feat. But that's exactly what DPS is all about. Their primary mission with this operation is to disrupt these smuggling networks and put an end to their illicit activities once and for all. And let me tell you, they're not messing around. They're hitting these smugglers where it hurts, slapping them with charges and hauling them off to face the music. See, it's not just about catching a few bad guys, it's about sending a message loud and clear. If you try to profit off of human misery, you're gonna pay the price. And DPS is leading the charge, showing these smugglers that they're not untouchable. But hey, let's not forget the real heroes in all of this, the migrants themselves. They're the ones who are risking everything for a shot at a better life. And while DPS is busy cracking down on the bad guys, let's also remember to treat these migrants with the dignity and respect they deserve. So here's to the Texas Department of Public Safety, keeping our borders safe and standing up for what's right. It's a tough job, but someone's gotta do it, and they're doing it with style.
The video shows a man in a yellow jacket who is believed to be O. Henry Brito wrestling with the officers.
Governor Hochul discussed New York's migrant crisis with President Biden yesterday in a conversation she called very productive.
And hopefully you'll grab him. We get some headway on this.
First of all, thanks a lot, guys. Listen, we saw what happened.
Response to gang recruitment. Alright, let's talk about the New York National Guard swooping in like real-life superheroes to tackle the gang recruitment problem head-on. Picture this. Reports start pouring in about some shady characters lurking around migrant centers, trying to lure in unsuspecting migrants into joining their dangerous gang. But fear not, because the New York National Guard ain't having none of that nonsense. They roll up their sleeves, put on their detective hats, and start scouring every inch of incoming migrants for any telltale signs of gang affiliation. We're talking tattoos, folks, specifically tattoos linked to a notorious Venezuelan street gang known as Trend Argue with A. Now, this ain't your grandma's tattoos. We're talking about symbols like AK-47 rifles, the Nike logo, stars, and gas masks. Yeah, it's like something straight out of a crime thriller. But here's the kicker. These gangs ain't just recruiting for fun. They're using asylum claims as a sneaky backdoor into the United States. It's like they're playing the system, and the National Guard ain't about to let that slide. See, this ain't their first rodeo. They've seen this playbook before with gangs like MS-13, and they know exactly what's at stake. It's not just about tattoos and symbols. It's about the potential for increased criminal activity right in their backyard. So they're on high alert, keeping a watchful eye on every migrant that sets foot on their turf. Because let's face it, the last thing New York needs is another gang running wild on the streets. But hey, it's not all doom and gloom. The National Guard's got a plan, and they're sticking to it. They're sending a clear message to these gangs, not on their watch. They're not just protecting their borders, they're protecting their communities, their families, and their way of life. So here's to the New York National Guard, standing tall against the tide of gang recruitment and keeping the streets safe for all. It's a tough job, but someone's gotta do it, and they're doing it with grit, determination, and maybe just a hint of that famous New York attitude.
And shared our concerns. Both the governor was also communicated with him.
I think it was more like 4,000 people that we got last week, which is kind of insane when you think about what these numbers are.
The city is caring for nearly 60,000 migrants right now. Let's face it, that number is not expected to get smaller.
If they were running the city right now, we'd be in a whole lot of trouble.
Challenges in gang identification. Alright, let's dive into the gritty world of gang identification and the challenges that law enforcement faces in keeping up with these sneaky characters. So picture this. You've got these gang members who used to wear their affiliations like badges of honor, proudly displaying their tattoos and markings for all to see. But guess what? They've caught wind of law enforcement's game plan and decided to switch things up. Now they're ditching the visible tattoos and going incognito, making it like trying to find a needle in a haystack. And let me tell you, it's throwing a major wrench into the works of the authorities. See, without those telltale signs, it's like trying to catch smoke with your bare hands. They're slipping through the cracks, blending into the crowd, and wreaking havoc under the radar. But here's the real kicker. It's not just about identifying these gang members. It's about stopping them in their tracks before they can cause any more harm. And that's no easy feat when they're playing a game of cat and mouse with the law. So what's the solution? Well, it's gonna take more than just your average beat cop to crack this case. We are talking enhanced surveillance, intelligence gathering capabilities, and some serious teamwork between law enforcement agencies. It's like putting together a puzzle, one piece at a time. You've got your detectives digging deep into the underworld, your tech wizards crunching numbers and analyzing data, and your beat cops keeping a watchful eye on the streets. It's a coordinated effort, and it's gonna take everyone working together to get the job done. But hey, don't count the authorities out just yet. They're a resilient bunch, and they're not about to let a few missing tattoos stand in their way. They'll adapt, they'll innovate, and they'll come up with new strategies to stay one step ahead of the game.
Understand that we're in the middle of a surge right now. Let me start with the numbers. Last week, I think, my notes say 3,800.
Since arriving in the city, many asylum seekers are picking up various day jobs in order to make ends meet.
This after the state seized control of the park to arrest migrants, and a Supreme Court ruling stating those federal agents can cut.
The record-breaking numbers here that we are just getting from Customs and Border Protection show what we have been reporting.
That's all for this video, folks. See you next time.